When I was growing up, my coach in baseball and basketball was a guy named Ray Rivers, and he drove the tractor around Saratoga Racetrack after each race to smooth out the course. And every day after practice, when I got into high school, when I was playing sports with his son Danny, he'd pick up 8 kids and drive us home in his beat-up Chevy Impala, the seats tilted back. For about an hour and a half every night he'd do this. And on weekends we'd go to his house, and he was the first one to bring us into his kitchen when his wife would come home from shopping. I'll never forget this. And they went shopping with food stamps. And they came home and they would pull out their groceries, and they'd have all these kids in there, these hungry teenagers, and we'd eat their food, take part in their food. And never once did they ever say, don't eat our food. They always encouraged us to come over. You know, when I went to start working after graduate school in politics and campaigns, and then for some nonprofits, we were doing work that should have been about people like Ray Rivers, about people who had dedicated their lives to helping raise not only their own kids, but all kids in a community, who had clearly demonstrated, notwithstanding their own lack of money, their own lack of means, that they would welcome you into their homes. And on a presidential race that I worked on, I never heard Ray Rivers' voice reflected in the work that we did. I sat through all the polling meetings, all the media meetings. I passed over all the scripts for the commercials for the candidate. And never once did I really believe that Ray Rivers was reflected in that campaign or in many other campaigns that I worked on. When I went to New York City to work for a nonprofit, we had a project in West Virginia, the sister plant to the Bhopal plant in India in 1985 blew. And so we were asked to come down and work there. And my friends in New York didn't want to go to West Virginia. There wasn't good wine, there weren't good bagels. They sometimes said the people didn't take showers, they weren't well educated, they didn't have good jobs. They were talking about Ray Rivers, actually, when they were saying all those things. And so I decided that that the backbone of this country are people like Ray Rivers. And the communities that Ray Rivers helped build where I grew up are the communities that we need. Even though our society has changed fundamentally, we still need those kind of communities where people are connected to one another, where people watch out for one another, where people work together to create a better society for all kids, not just your own kids. And I decided that it wasn't enough simply to have a good mission or a good soundbite for your organization, to be able to go up to parties on the Upper West Side or the Lower East Side in Greenwich Village, to white wine and brie parties, and talk about your work. That you really need to be in communities doing the work, and that when you're in communities doing the work, you really need to be with people who lived in those communities. Not to be flown as an expert, but to come in as a partner with the people who lived in those communities. And so what motivates me to do this work is I think we can have those communities again. I think we can have those connections again. I think there are lots of Ray Rivers in our society still today. And the question is, how do we tap into their aspirations? How do we make space for them in our public life? How do we create places where people can come together and do the kind of work that Ray Rivers was doing in my hometown?